is the fullback with the first and goal. Kuhn gets the call. Pyle trying to make his way in for the touchdown. What a great second effort.
Y'all don't really want it like that. Here comes the. Here comes the. Here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like that. E-double-L. I said so. I keep big bills up in my heart on the dirty like blood. So ain't got no twist in my head, but I'm still dreadful.
What is going on, Wolfpack? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street, rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves here with the ultimate playoff fantasy football preview, baby. We are just days away from the 2021 playoff schedule kicking off. It's been a wild year. Weeks 1 through 17 were as crazy as ever, as unpredictable as ever, and I imagine the playoffs are going to be the same, Wolfpack. I cannot wait for this one. I can't wait to go over my predictions, and just spoiler, I don't expect either one seed to make it into the finals, so I have quite an interesting playoff bracket here that I'm excited to go over with you guys. But I'm so excited. Thank you so much for coming here. It's so good to be back. I know I took a little hibernation there, but cheers, Wolfpack. Hopefully you are here to settle in, talk about some playoff ball with me, get some questions, comments in, what you think's going to happen in the playoffs, who you would want to own in playoff leagues. How do playoff leagues work? We're going to talk about all of that. The ultimate preview of the show is we'll talk first quickly about where you can play, how it works, what's the structure of playoff leagues. Then we'll get into our team rankings, our Super Bowl 55 predictions, and our bracket kind of for the playoffs. I'll go into my whole playoff 2021 for the whole playoffs, what my rankings look like. And then also we'll preview Wildcard weekend, talk about some news, notes going into that, and then preview who we think could blow up as well. So cheers, Wolfpack. Glad to have you here. If you don't mind hitting that thumbs up button, heart button, wherever you are at, help us get out to more people, share it out potentially even. Would be awesome to talk some playoff ball here with you. But thanks again so much. Excited to chat with you. Let's just quickly preview, how does playoff fantasy football work, right? There's only, how many teams? 14 teams total, 2 of them on bye this week. People get eliminated. So how do we play fantasy football in these circumstances? There's a bunch of different ways. My personal favorite is just like your regular league, setting up a league. I think my fantasy league is the best spot to do that. And you set up a league with, I say 6 is the ideal setting with the limited amount of teams. 7 would be the cap. I'd say 5 would be the minimum. So 5 to 7. Now that we have 14 teams, 7 can work. Ultimately, 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, and tight end mixed. I kind of like, because obviously, other than Kelsey, who do you want? That's kind of the ideal setup. Go with whatever scoring you typically do, all that good stuff. You can set up a league very easily, again, on myfantasyleague.com. I can help any of you guys out. We have all this content, by the way. I guess I should pump it at rotostreetjournal.com if you want to check out any of these goods. We have write-ups on all of this stuff at the website and on the app, of course, Roto Street Journal. And I do want to quickly pump Prediction Strike, an awesome new app I've been getting involved with. If you want to end up getting some action, I'm going to talk about it later and these ways to play. But check out that new app, Prediction Strike. Also, predictionstrike.com if you do not have an iOS app. It's a fantastic stock market. Works perfectly with our content where you can invest in players, see their values rise. We're going to preview that in a second. But if you use the code RSJ, all caps, you can get a $10 bonus with $20 deposit or more. So I just wanted to quickly pump our guys there over at Prediction Strike, an awesome, awesome organization and app that's rising right alongside us right now. Love to see it. So other places to play, though, again, just setting up a league on my fantasy leagues, awesome. The general overview, though, how it works is a lot of leagues, at least, it's not just about player talent, but it's you get how many games a player lasts for. So it's so important to project your playoffs, see them unfolding, how many games played you see each time, each team gaining. So there's a huge edge if you can find the wild card weekend team that goes all the way to the Super Bowl. You get 4 games of stats getting racked up. That can be a huge edge. And conversely, obviously the Chiefs, Packers seem to be the favorites, right? Number 1 seeds, but you'll also potentially only get maximum 3 games. And what if they end up being one and dones? That's the risk with some of those teams. So we're going to have to factor some of that in as we talk. But again, you get the points for as ever long as your player lasts. and ultimately rack up fantasy points. And again, whatever your scoring settings are, whatever you decide for your rosters. But there's some other types of formats that I do love. One of them is the one and done type of leagues where you pick a player once, you don't get to use them again. So a great example of a player you'd want to do is Jonathan Taylor. If you think the Colts are going to be one and done team, use him this weekend, because you won't have another chance to use him. I think he'll destroy the Bills this weekend. He's going to go crazy, but then Josh Allen on the other side is going to feast and ultimately knock those Colts out. So in those one and done leagues, you want to look at the weekend predictions. Like if you think the Titans are going to lose to the Ravens, then you want to get obviously Derrick Henry in, use him up while you can. Or conversely, if you think the Ravens are going to lose, get J.K. Dobbins and Lamar Jackson on in those one and done leagues. So that's another type of format where you get to use a player, but you only get to use them once. So you have to be very smart about projecting, okay, how far are these teams going to go? When do I want to use them? And ultimately, it's all about picking the teams that are going to get eliminated early, using those guys up. Terry McLaurin, Allen Robinson, those types of players. There's also some great high stakes formats. I love the FFPC Playoff Challenge. You can find that at ffpc.com, and also the NFFC Postseason Hold'em. Two great contests if you're into high stakes stuff. One of them is the $200 buy-in, the FFPC, but there's also a $35 buy-in for football guys, a smaller one with a $100,000 grand prize, which is very interesting. And the way that works is you get to pick a player per position, one per team, right? So if I pick Josh Allen at quarterback, I can't pick any more Bills. If I pick, Jonathan, I don't want Jonathan Taylor, but a team that's going to go far, let's call it, what running back would I really like? Alvin Kamara, right? The Saints. Let's say the Saints are going to get 4 games, right? If I think they're going to go all the way to the Super Bowl, I pick Alvin Kamara. I can't get any more Saints in my lineups. And you pick a full lineup, one player per team like that. Fantastic setup. Then there is, as we were talking about, Prediction Strike, a awesome way, a fantasy stock market, they call it, where you invest in players. So let's say one of my favorite pickups right now, John Brown, his stock right now is $1.77 to acquire him. If he beats his projection right now, which is 10 points, which I think is a lock, that he's going to destroy that. He's going to go for 20 points this weekend against the Colts. Nobody can run with him on that team, right? So if he beats them, beats his projection, his stock price goes up. It's like obviously the stock market, as the production goes up, your price goes up and your value of your portfolio goes up as people invest in that player because he's doing well. He continues to climb. Obviously, the opposite effect, if your player underperforms below his projections, the price will go down. People will probably sell him and the price will go down. But don't worry, I have plenty of blow-up predictions on the website for who could be fantastic yields in the playoff fantasy market. So those are just a few ways. Of course, you have your NFL DFS. I'll probably do a preview show on Saturday to look at both slates, the Saturday and Sunday. They've kind of broken it up, 3 games each. But those are a few ways to get that action going. If you want to get in a league, let me know. Potentially we could do like a listener league, a fan league, and do a 6-person type of thing. It would be awesome. So let me know if you're looking to get your action going and you don't have, 5 other buddies that are as addicted as you are to fantasy, because maybe we could get a little listener league going on. Good to see Ilias. Welcome on in. Titans or Ravens? I got to go. Titans or Ravens? I'm going Titans, and it's a tough call, though. I mean, Lamar Jackson's fired up to not get knocked off, go 0-3 in his playoff career. He could truly rip it up. So I do like the Ravens with that extra motivation, but personally, I think the Titans are going to roll. I'm a huge fan of the Titans. Derrick Henry could have another crazy postseason like last year. I think the Titans are a sneaky bet to go all the way should they rip. What's going on, Mitch Chavez? Great to see you guys. Great to see the usual crew here. Love seeing you guys as always. So that covers where and how to play fantasy football. Now on to, as I was mentioning, it's all about team rankings, right? Essentially to win a playoff fantasy league, you have to have the team that goes the furthest. You have to have players all on that team. So you have to be able to project, okay, I think if you think the Chiefs are going to go all the way, as most people do, then of course you want Mahomes at number 1. You want Tyreek Hill very soon after. You want Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming back. You want Travis Kelce, of course, right? I'm going different, though. Let me pull up for you my playoff team rankings. You can find these at rotostreetjournal.com, but my personal team, and let me see if I can zoom in. You guys can let me know if you can see this okay. I'm going to zoom into my bracket here and share my screen, add to stream here. And I'll get this off just so it's not in the way here. I hope you can see it okay. Let me know if not. But ultimately, I see the playoffs unfolding in wild card weekend here. Tennessee beating Baltimore in a close battle. I mean, that's going to be the best game of the weekend, to be honest. Blow up potential. And I see Kansas City Titans. That I could see that one going either way. I do think Kansas City will prevail. I think Pittsburgh is a lock to win this weekend with all the COVID related mess going on in Cleveland this weekend. They should get destroyed, to be honest. No Stefanski, no practices all week. It's unfortunate. I feel so bad for Browns fans. My, heart goes out to you. But ultimately, it does suck. This is your first time making it since like early 90s, and this type of shit happens to you. So I don't expect any type of upset with Cleveland. I think Pittsburgh rolls. I do think Buffalo Indy is going to be a fantastic contest this weekend. I think Buffalo does pull it out. They are the hottest team, 6 straight wins coming into the playoffs, over 30 points for Josh Allen in most of those contests. Nobody's hotter than the Bills and Josh Allen. And I actually think, as you can see over here, I think the Bills knock off Pittsburgh the next week, and I think the Bills actually knock off Kansas City to go to the Super Bowl for the AFC. Now, on the other side, I think Tampa Bay rolls in Washington. I could see a gross little upset, but I think Brady's, back-to-back 4 touchdown days, 4 straight wins for those Bucks. They seem to really be just getting better and better by the week as they get more and more comfortable with each other, as Brady gets more comfortable in Bruce Arians' scheme. I think Tampa Bay is going to roll, and then I think they're going to roll Green Bay like they did this year. They're going to go on in there. I think Ronald Jones is going to have a Mostert-style day as to last year's playoffs, and I think they're going to run over Green Bay. And then ultimately on the other side of the bracket, I think Seattle beats the Rams. It doesn't matter if it's Goff or Wolford. I don't think the Rams stand much of a chance this weekend. Not that I love Seattle. And I think New Orleans destroys the Bears. The Bears are a fluke. They shouldn't be in there 8-8. Come on. Disgusting. Ultimately, I think New Orleans beats them. And as you can see, I think NOLA beats Seattle. We get a Tampa Bay, New Orleans game in my championship round for the NFC. And I think maybe it's my biased Tom Brady loving New Englander in me, but I don't think anybody is colder in the playoffs than Tom Brady, the ice in the veins. And I think there's no way he loses to New Orleans 3 times in the same season. He's already gotten blown out once, a solid week 1 battle. I think Brady will get it going, especially the way that offense is humming right now, the way Brady has picked his game up. So I'm predicting a Bills and Bucks Super Bowl with the Bills ultimately winning it all. Is how I see it going. Now, again, most people are going to have Packers versus Chiefs, 1 seed versus 1 seed. I think the Chiefs are probably the safest bet here. I don't like Green Bay at all, though. They seem to always choke in the playoffs. As good as Rodgers has been, this is a different Rodgers than I think we've seen in a long, long time. He's completely fired up, lasered in, home field at Lambeau throughout the playoffs. Like, that is tough to bet against. But I think Tom Brady's going to get it done and come off that side. And I think Josh Allen is going to rip it. I am a little nervous because the Colts do present quite a first-round matchup for these Bills. I could look like a complete moron predicting the Bills win the Super Bowl and then get knocked out by the Colts. But I think we're going to get a nice shootout game. We'll talk about that in the wild card preview. And ultimately, the Bills win it. So, as you can see, when I'm tallying games played, that means the Bills, if everything holds true in my predictions, who fucking knows? It's such a wild card this year. If everything holds true, we get 4 games from the Bills and 4 games from the Bucks. That means I am significantly higher in my playoff fantasy football rankings on both of those teams, given that prediction of a Super Bowl there. So I will pull in my preview there. But as I rank my teams here, I have the Bills number 1. I think that offense is, of course, as juicy as you can get, followed by the Bucks number 2 with 4 games played based on my predictions. I do have Kansas City right after them, because if it's not going to be the Bills, I think it's got to be Kansas City coming out. And then New Orleans, I think, has a real shot to play at least 3 games, get to that championship game, potentially even 4. And that offense is so explosive. If you get 3-4 games out of them, Alvin Kamara, potentially returning Michael Thomas, Drew Brees, Jared Cook, they could definitely be fantasy monsters for you in the playoffs. And then you got Kansas City, though. As I mentioned, they're so safe. And the Packers are got to be my number 5 team. Like, should the Packers roll the number 1 seed? Absolutely, they should roll. They went 4-2 against playoff competition. They dismantled the Bears. They beat the Saints and destroyed the Titans. Like they have some quality games on their resume, but they have some tough losses too. So I'm a little wary of these Packers despite the home field advantage. Then I have the Seahawks and Titans in the next tier. Like that's my tier 1 grouping. Then I have the Seahawks, Titans as teams that I wouldn't be shocked if those guys go on runs and you get 3-4 games out of both of them. You'd have to beat the Chiefs. You'd have to beat New Orleans in order to do it in the second round. I think both teams are potentially capable of that. And nobody would be shocked if Big Ben, the undefeated Steelers for as long as they were, the 11-0 Steelers, they have the defense to make a run. They did lose Bud Dupree, which is a huge hit, but I could see them. They're my number 8 team in that same tier. And last but not least, I also have the Ravens in there. I know, one of those two, Titans versus Ravens, week 1, somebody obviously has to get, killed off there. But whoever does make it past the other team, wouldn't be shocked at all to see them get hot, roll on into Kansas City with a ton of momentum and end up knocking off the Chiefs. So don't be shocked if that happens. That's like my next tier. And then I have the no shot tier. The Colts 10, Bears 11, Browns 12. No confidence there. Rams 13, like Wolford probably starting. Come on. Disgusting. And last but not least, of course, the Washington football team. Last and least, rather, is how I should say that one. So that's how I rank my teams. It's such a crucial exercise. If you are going to play playoff fantasy football, you must rank your teams out, project how many games they're going to play, and then let that dictate your rankings. Unless you're just doing DFS, which we have wildcard weekend rankings up there. We have all that stuff. If you're just going week by week, cool. But ultimately, I am a big fan of that playoff schedule unfolding here. In terms of my whole playoff rankings now, based on that, let me pull my rankings up here for you so you can kind of just see what I've done based on those. No surprise, Josh Allen's my number 1 ranked player based on the fact that I think they get 4 games. Let me zoom in, just make sure you guys can see that okay. Josh Allen, Patty Mahomes, number 2, though. In the off chance, the Bills, not the off chance, the likely chance that the Bills do not upset Mahomes and the Chiefs, Mahomes should go berserk. As you can see, Brady, my number 3 quarterback, given that 4-game prediction of the Bucs. If you think they're going to get knocked off by the Packers in round 2, you should not have Brady anywhere close to here. You should have Rodgers at 2-1. If you think the Packers are going to go that far, I think he's got to be number 4, even if I think they could be one and done based on my predictions. If I miss out on Brady, I would obviously want Rodgers. Instead, Breeze would be a great bet. So that's like my tier 1 of quarterbacks. Then you got, this is just like the overall rankings. Let me go position by position. You can check out the big board if you'd like. You can see Lamar Jackson, even if he only plays 1 game, you get you 30 points in that 1 game. The Titans, the worst defense that's allowed in the playoffs, 9th in terms of points allowed, 9th most points in the league, is nearly 30 a game. So Lamar could just put up 30, even if it's a one and done. I do like Russell Wilson in the off chance they do win and they get at least 2 games out there. What if they let Russ cook again? I mean, Russ, if they let him cook, would be up in this top tier because 1, they're going to start winning again because that's how 5-0, Russell on pace for 61 touchdowns. And let's get run heavy and be little bitches. Awful. I hate the Seahawks. I hate Pete Carroll. I just let the man sling, right? If that happens, then Russ Wilson's going to win playoff leagues in fantasy football. I don't expect it to. He has like 12 fantasy points average in his last 5 games. It's pathetic. They've been paltry, a joke. Ryan Tannel's right under Russell Wilson. Similar to Lamar Jackson, could be one and done, but doesn't have that upside of like a 30-point day. I mean, Ryan Tannehill averaged like 130 passing yards per game last one playoffs. I think he'd be better in this year. The man had 40 total touchdowns. Maybe they let it air out a little bit more. They don't ride Derrick Henry as much in this playoff. We'll find out. And Roethlisberger right there. Again, if Roethlisberger and the Steelers go all the way, I don't think anybody would be overly surprised. Now, is the upside that great either way? I mean, the dude had the most pass attempts in the league this year and finishes the QB 16, 15 in fantasy. Wasn't all that efficient, but he does have great weapons around him. They do have a chance to go all the way, but I'm so high on the Bills. I don't expect that. And then, you're rounding out your rankings here. Rivers could have a huge day against the Bills, and that's it. So if I'm going one and done, maybe I get Rivers for 3 touchdowns. I don't want Baker with no Stefanski. Trubisky, come on. We don't want Trubisky. Jared Goff. I mean, maybe Jared Goff even plays. Maybe it's John Wolford, who even knows. And last year, and certainly least, is Alex Smith, who might be in a committee, who might not even play now. Questionable entering it. So that's my quarterback rankings. Quickly cover my running backs here. Derrick Henry, no surprise, the absolute steamroller. That's because I do think the Titans get at least 2 games with an outside chance at 3, maybe even 4, given how hot Henry is. 2K, the man, the mammoth, the steamroller could go for. But Kamara, I think you're getting at least 3 games, maybe even 4, of a dude that just had 56 fantasy points, 6 touchdowns. So I love Kamara. I think he could light it up. He's practicing virtually with the team, but eligible to come back this week. And then Aaron Jones has to be in that top tier in the chance that you think the Packers go all the way. You might have him even number 1 there. Ronald Jones, that's just because I think the Bucs go so far. That's why I'm as high on Ronald Jones as I am at number 4. Also because you get the Packers in round 2, who I think he would dismantle, just like Raheem Mostert did. So I'm sneaky high on Ronald Jones. I love Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the Chiefs. You'll get at least 2 games in my predictions. And they clearly missed him when he was not in there. It wasn't like Le'Veon Bell did anything to overtake and overthrow Clyde Edwards-Helaire over there. So I think Helaire will walk right back in. Maybe have a Darrell Williams. Damian Williams, not Darrell. Darrell's a piece of shit. Damian Williams type of postseason where he just goes berserk and scores 3 touchdowns in multiple games, right? That could happen. I do like Carson on the chance that the Seahawks do make a run. He's playing 70% of the snaps here down the stretch. Carlos Hyde's expected back, but he'll be a non-factor. Does that bump up to because if the Ravens win and you get 2 games of this guy, he's going to feast. I think 1 game might be more than enough anyways. I think he's going to put up 25-30. One of my favorite guys, we talked about prediction strike earlier, to invest in. I think his projection is under 10 points. If you want just literally to print money, it's going to be a lock that J.K. Dobbins stock goes up after this week. And you can invest in him. And then the playoff, after the playoffs, you can just hold on to him in the postseason because when they cut Mark Ingram, boom, 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 stock is only going to be on the climb. So get on in on Prediction Strike, code RSJ, all caps. Get $10 bonus and put it all on to J.K. Dobbins. I'm low on Nick Chubb just because I'm not high on the Browns. You know what? I'm gonna probably bump Taylor up because I'm thinking both teams are one and done. I'd rather have Taylor in my one and done contest. So looking at these rankings and as I'm going through them, rather have Taylor up there. Connor comes in at 10, but it's not like anything appealing. He had double digits. He had a couple back-to-back games at double digits, but that's more so I think the Steelers play at least 2 games, why I have him there. And then you got David Montgomery, hardest run D and a one and done spot. I think this is where he shits himself. I want nothing to do with Montgomery, to be honest. In playoff leagues, I have the Bills guys. I think you're getting 4 games out of them. And that might amount to 15 total points. So you might be better off just getting a Jonathan Taylor, getting your 15 points. I do think, I might bump Cam Akers up a little bit. This, again, is for the whole playoffs, not for just the week. But that's kind of, you don't need to know much more beyond those guys. As you can see, and as you probably expect, Devontae Adams, Diggs, Tyreek Hill, your elite receivers. Nobody should probably argue any of that. You got Godwin, Michael Thomas, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, the guys that could very easily jump into that top tier, especially if their teams get multiple games. I wish I liked DK Metcalf more. I mean, I love the player himself. I just don't love that he gets the Rams in week 1, and it's probably that's it. You get New Orleans the next week. Maybe he has a big day there, but don't love him. I think you're going to get at least 2 games of Deontay Johnson, one of them being against Cleveland, who gets destroyed. I think he's a good bet. 4 games out of John Brown, though, who I think could go nuclear. I'm significantly higher on John Brown than most. Tyler Lockett, same to DK Metcalf. Tough first matchup. Not all that sexy, moving forward after that. Antonio Brown, 4 games from the Bucs is what I predicted. Man, maybe I should bump him up. Just a matter of what's the risk of that, right? It's like I like the Bucs to go 4 games, but I put my confidence level at 25% there. It's not like I feel great about any of these teams. It's I want to keep emphasizing This is the most unpredictable playoffs. So you're playing fantasy playoffs. The key is making sure, too, that you don't pick people on teams that are facing each other like in the immediate or near future. You want to find opposite sides of the bracket, load up on one NFC team, one AFC team, and, mix in guys from teams that will not be facing that team in the near future. So that way you're not eliminating yourself. You're not cannibalizing your own team, right? I like Juju for a couple games. Marquise Brown, one game against the Titans might be all he needs to hit 25-30, which will go, worlds. And then Claypool. Now, Cole Beasley, if he was guaranteed healthy, 4 games out of Beasley, he'd be probably 7-6 here. But we don't even know if he's going to play this week. It's looking like he's not. He hasn't practiced all week. So I don't know if I want to put too much stock in him. I do like Sanders for 3 games played, which means quality chances to rack up points. But now we're in the tier of like one and dones, like Allen Robinson, Terry, Woods with Wolford at quarterback. Like maybe at that point, you just rather invest in like a Sammy Watkins, right? A Gabriel Davis, 4 games. So that's how I rank my receivers. Tight end, obviously Kelsey's the top guy. Like even if you only got 2 games, he's going to outscore everybody. But then Andrews, if you got multiple games, would be a beast. Tunyon's my 3, even though I do, again, want to emphasize, I think Green Bay probably gets knocked out early. If not, Tunyon would be a beast. Now, I think Rob Gronkowski, based on my personal rankings, I'll probably have to bump him up, right? Because if you get 4 games out of Gronk, he probably belongs at number 2. And we know him and Brady have had some monstrous playoff runs together before if Mike Evans' injury continues to linger. So as I go through these with you, I'm like, maybe I got to bump these up. Yeah, Cook at 5, though. 3 games out of Cook could be a great matchup with the Bears to start it off, and pretty easy NFC matchups versus tight ends as a whole. I think Ebron, Jonnu, Logan, Logan would be higher if it wasn't just a one and done. And then you get into the crap tight ends, right? So hopefully you can get one of these top 6 guys, or maybe you play a league that you don't even need tight ends. I wouldn't draft anybody besides these top 5 guys, and maybe not even, all those guys. And that's really it. I'm not going to go into defensive and kickers. Like, you don't need that. That'd be a waste of our time. So that's how I kind of ranking the playoffs, noting here that I need to bump Gronkowski up in my own personal rankings. Based on how I feel there. And I think I'm going to bump up Jonathan Taylor a little bit because these are one and done guys. And I think Taylor is going to go crazy. Let's talk about that. Wildcard weekend previews. And again, guys, keep those comments coming in. Let's chat here. We got a couple of guys. Toons, Mitch, Daniel Howland would be interested in playing. Let's figure this out. Let's do it. Maybe we can figure out like a way to wager, $10, $20, whatever you guys might be interested in. Get a little added stake here. It'd be fun. So let's chat about that. I'd love to do a little bit of a playoff league with some people. Toons is saying he thinks that Buffalo Indy could be a coin flip. I think it is like, at 65-35 for me. So not quite a coin flip, but I like Indy. If they were on another side of the bracket, they were facing, let's say, the Steelers in week 1. I would be all in on those guys. But I think Buffalo, I like Indy. I love Buffalo. I think Buffalo's as soon as you put that much faith in Josh Allen, what if we see him regress to last year's Josh Allen, right? I don't, I've seen a lot of people be like, yeah, well, Indy's going to pull the upset, and I don't hate it, but I personally think, again, I think the Bills win the Super Bowl, so I'm kind of off that train there. Bills over KC just can't, says Mitch. Wasn't too long ago that KC tore them up with the run game. We'll see. Yeah, that was an early season Bills team that has really come into its own. It wasn't too long ago that the Kansas City Chiefs got lucky. Younghoe Koo missed his first field goal of the year before they were going to go to overtime with the Falcons. They've squeaked out some wins against some bad teams. Like I get their records the best. I get they haven't lost to any of these playoff teams, but I don't think this Chiefs team is nearly as untouchable as I thought they were last year, especially in this crazy, crazy setting. Let's now talk about Wild Card weekend, though. We'll look quickly at the spreads here. You got, fantasy-wise, Ravens versus Titans. That's going to be your gold mine. That's where people are going to blow up. That's where we're going to smash over-unders. 55 projected points. We're looking at 6. I mean, the Titans have given up over 30 points in 4 of the last 6, and the Ravens are better than any offense they were facing, other than maybe the Texans. But yeah, Ravens can beat the Texans. So I think this game is going to go berserk. The Titans are actually the underdogs at 3.5 right now. I'll take that all day because I think the Titans win. Titans at home underdogs. Weird. I did not expect that. The second highest total, though, Bills and Colts, 51.5. I love that to hit the over as well. I think that game's going to go back and forth, and then Allen's going to end up leading the game winner against these Colts there. But I'm into that game for sure. And the rest, the next highest is the Steelers and Browns at 47.5. I don't think it hits that. I think with Stefanski out with no practice this week, I think the Browns are going to unfortunately lay an egg. If they can pull that off, I mean, that would be a heroic effort by Baker. And I just don't think Baker has heroics in him. So I like 47, and I like that to hit the under. I like the Steelers -6. I'll take that. I think they're going to roll over them. Yeah, 47 projected for the Bears and Saints over under. Saints 10. I think the Saints roll by 10. I mean, 10 is a pretty big playoff spread. It's a good defense. Like, I don't know if I'll hit the spread. I think 47 is fair too. That's a game I'm probably not going to have any action on. 45 for Bucks versus Washington. Now that game, again, I'm predicting the Bucks go all the way. I think that D-line could destroy the Bucks offensive line, though. I think it could be an ugly win for Brady. This team, the football team, almost just lost to an awful Eagles team. If they didn't put in Sudfeld, freaking Denny Jennings, where you at, brother? Your Eagles, my God, what a controversial. If you're out there, Denny, you better show your face. Ridiculous tank job by them. Washington stumbled to beat them. I think they match up well with Brady. We know Brady's, 1-3 against NFC least teams in the playoffs. This Washington team's not pulling that upset, though. Might be ugly, might be a gross, low-scoring affair is kind of what I'm thinking for that one. But ultimately, I don't think they're pulling that upset. And then, Seahawks, Rams. Now, 42.5, that's the one game that, if Goff ends up being okay and healthy, Jamal Adams is going to play, but that game could end up going wild. So let me talk about some of the quick news that's going on into the weekend, just so you're fully caught up on these player notes. But that's how I feel about the over-unders, the spreads for those games. Let me know if you have any specific questions on them. But heading into that, so speaking of the Rams, right, Goff, McVay's being coy. He's talking about, I'm not going to tell anybody. And why would you, right? Competitive advantage at this point of the year. I don't blame him. I'm not hating him for it. I think Goff does play, though. In playoffs, come on, Goff. You better have something in the fucking pants. Have a sack. I think he plays. I think Whitworth, he's expected to play. He was activated off the IR. That's a huge boost for that offensive line, their best lineman on otherwise shambles lines. We have Cam Akers off the injury report. That's big news after a monster workload, right? 25 touches, nearly all the snaps, 21 carries. He's 5,100 on DraftKings. Love him. We'll do more DraftKings on another day. I like that they're all getting healthy, which could brew a potential shootout. At 42.5, I'm going to take that over. It's been ugly both times they've played so far this year. They split the season series. First, the Rams won 23-16, 39 total points. And then the Seahawks won 20-9, 29 total points. So 42.5 seems like miles to get there. But maybe they just unload Russ Wilson and the Seahawks, if the Rams keep pace, I think 42.5 is a very reasonable spread, despite the ugly slugfest we've seen. That's the one game in DFS I'm like, how do we attack this? Is it going to be does this become a shootout? Because they could go for 60 if it does, total points. Or it could just be another 29 gross over, total points. I don't know what to make of that one, right? But in terms of rankings for my playoffs here, for just week 18 specifically, let me pull these back in. I got Josh Allen at the top, followed by Lamar Jackson. Most people have Lamar number one. I flip-flop them. I think Allen is where I'm starting all my lineups here this weekend. I have Tannehill 3 just because I think that game shoots out like crazy. Brady's my 4, not very confidently. I have, Roethlisberger already plus 2 ECR, and I think I might bump him even further. I think that, Cleveland team, again, no practice without, half their important coaching staff. I think Big Ben could throw 3 for 300 and be the sneaky, ugly, nobody wants him in DraftKings, and he lights it up. I do like Breeze. I think Brady, I can't get my head around. Maybe he just keeps it going, 4 straight touchdowns, 4 touchdowns in 2 straight games, right? Maybe he keeps ripping. I think this D-line's going to get to him. I think it's going to be an ugly game, low scoring. I think that's the lowest scoring game of the weekend. That's how I see that one playing out. And then you got your, Rivers. I like, of all the games, I think that one and the Ravens Titans, that's like where I'm peppering all my lineups. Now they do have a Saturday, Sunday slate on both DraftKings and FanDuel, but most of the big money pots are one Saturday slate, one Sunday slate. So Saturday, it's Bills Colts stack. Sunday, it's Titans Ravens. The first games of both days too. As you can see, there's no Alex Smith. And Alex Smith might not even be starting as we keep covering some of that news. Actually, I want to keep it on the rankings here. We'll keep going through the news as we go here. I love Jonathan Taylor, my number one, even above Henry this weekend, which not most people will agree with, but dude had 250 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Jags. Yes, the Bills are the worst run D still in the playoffs, though. I think Taylor could have a day, besides the Titans, of course. I think Dobbins, at 4. That's where I'm doing my DraftKings is Taylor Dobbins lineups. Derrick Henry, of course, is a monster, but 9,200 in DraftKings not where I'm leaning. Kamara should be back, should do fine. He had 9 catches for 95 yards against this team, the Bears, earlier in the season. 28 fantasy points. Should be a pretty good play this weekend, assuming he's in and he's preparing as if he should be. And then you got Montgomery, Chubb. I like Akers. I might bump him up a little bit here. As we said, 25 touches last time out. Seahawks, middle of the road. I do think the Browns get erased, so I could see myself bumping Akers into this Montgomery Chubb range. I'm not that high on Montgomery. If I am, I got to bump him in my rest of the season, and I'm not. I do think Ronald Jones is a very intriguing play. Washington, brutal up front. I love J.D. McKissick, though, this week. The Bucs have given up the most receptions to running backs, and he's clearly the biggest pass catcher. So that's a quick note there. What do we got on Antonio Gibson? What's this little nugget? He's questionable. He's going to play. Like, he played in Week 17. He's going to be playing. As you can see, I'm very down on Kareem Hunt. I think Nyheim Hines, I might need to bump up just because if that game becomes a shootout, that's the one risk with Taylor, right? Is if this game becomes a complete out-of-hand bonanza, they might turn to Nyheim Hines instead, which would be brutal. But those are my running back rankings, as you can see there. I think Diggs is by far and away, with no Devontae Adams on the slate, Diggs is the best receiver, no doubt about it. 9, 10 catches. Week 17 didn't hit there, but he played half the game. He had 7 catches in half the game. He is a bona fide stud, target hog alpha to the fullest. Love me some Diggs in this playoff picture. You got to A.J. Brown against the Ravens team that has not severely underperformed. Allen Robinson, just like on name value, is a beast. I'm going to do a little reevaluating of some of this stuff, though, because I think Deontay Johnson, I might have him at number 3, to be honest. I think he could go crazy against Cleveland, and just crazy in these playoffs in general. And then Godwin, I'm gonna probably bump Allen Robinson down to like Mike Evans range here and bump Deontay Johnson up into this top tier. I'm really feeling a blow-up game from Deontay. As I look at these rankings, I made them yesterday, and I'm starting to feel some adjustments need to come into play here. Mike Evans is questionable. Excited to be a true game time decision. You got to imagine he suits up, right? No structural damage. Swelling's been a minimum. Risky play, but should he play, he should eat. He's in a nice, contrarian little deep DraftKings type of guy that no one will be in. I am high on Marquise Brown. I might bump him above DK, maybe even above Terry here. Terry is intriguing because the Bucs are giving up a lot of points to wide receivers as of late. They're going to be playing from behind. I think this game will be closer than maybe others do. But I think Terry could be an intriguing play that needs a little bump up here. Otherwise, I like T.Y. Hilton in a game that should shoot out. I love my Steelers guys more than I like Robert Woods. The Seahawks are the worst team against receivers. So if we get Goff, if we get a shootout, Woods and Cooper Kupp would end up breaking the slate. Kupp down here at 19 could go completely berserk. As you can see, I'm much lower on Corey Davis and all those drops. I'm done with him. I don't want anything to do with him. I'd rather have John Brown, 4,600 DraftKings. Love his price. 5,200 for Claypool. Think he could go wild. And just a note on Claypool and Deontay. We got Juju as a free agent this offseason, 2021. On prediction strike, you want to get in early on these guys, Deontay and Claypool. Get them now. The price is still pretty decent because when Juju's gone, those target shares are going to go berserk. As of tight end, let's just preview that for you. Andrew's obviously the top guy. Logan Thomas, for the 1 week, you're going to get him. Not bad. I think Gronk scores this weekend, as does Jared Cook. Ebron's back, gets a Cleveland team giving up the third most points at tight ends. He's a lock number 5. I think you got to build your tight end around one of these top 5. Maybe you go Jonnu Smith, but that's really the last possible potential guy, in my opinion. And that's really it for Wildcard. That's kind of it for my playoff preview here. In terms of guys, sorry about that. Of guys I wrote about on the site here, I wrote an article about blow-up candidates. I love Dobbins, as I mentioned, to go crazy against the Titans. And if they get 2 games, Dobbins, we might see the next great running back emerge. We just saw 160 and 2 touchdowns against Cincy. I think Dobbins is in for a big playoff run, whether it's 1 game, whether it's 2, whether they pull another upset and it's 3. Dobbins, I love in the playoffs for prediction strike. I love Josh Allen. I think he's going to break Eli Manning's record, which is one crazy that Eli Manning has the record for most yardage in a single postseason, 1,219 yards. I think Josh Allen beats that because I think Josh Allen gets 4 games. Josh Allen's averaged 315 yards against top 10 defenses. He plays better against tougher competition, which would have him on pace for 1,260 yards, beating Eli Manning. And honestly, I think he throws for more than that in the playoffs. I think we're getting 350, 370, huge days back to back to back to back. I think he's going to be the player. When we look at this playoffs, I think it's going to be Josh Allen that we all look at and say, this man took over the 2021 playoffs. He knocked off the Chiefs. He went berserk. And he won it. He won it for the city that has craved it for so long. So I'm big on the Bills. I'm a Pats fan, and I'm rooting for the Bills, which is just crazy to me. But that's where we've become. Allen's the guy I think goes nuts, and I think Josh, a product of that, an ancillary little product would be John Brown. I think Kamara, fresh off that 56-point day, he could go nuts. He's only $7 on prediction strike. Go get him now. Get him. And I mentioned Deontay Johnson. I could see him taking over a couple games, 20, 25 fantasy point days coming from Deontay Johnson as just some blow-up potential. Wolfpack, I think that's what we got. Where do you rank Jonathan Taylor? Great question, Jackson. Any other questions next year, 2021, all that stuff? As of right now, Jackson, I have him at 12 overall. I think running back 9 or between 7 and 9, 7, 8, or 9. So clearly higher than first rounder, right? If Marlon Mack's completely gone, if Frank Reich, we get some comments like, hey, I'm done. I'm done with my stupid committee. Let's feed the man. There's no reason Jonathan Taylor shouldn't be top 3, right? Talent alone, we've seen it these last few weeks. He's been the running back 2 behind only Derrick Henry. But I just, the early season skepticism, yes, sometimes it's the light switch. Maybe it was more on Taylor. He did end up breaking 33 tackles in the second half of the year after only having 10 broken tackles in the first half. Something happened with him that he got better, played with thinking less. It happens a lot with rookies. They finally just kind of feel it again rather than overthinking things and trying to adjust to the NFL. He hit that groove. He also had a very easy schedule. It didn't hurt either. If we get that Jonathan Taylor all year, then he should be top 5. I want to see Marlon Mack gone. I want to see Reich commit to this guy because I still am Reich is he's always been a committee guy wherever he's been. So that has me a little nervous on Jonathan Taylor, but still one of the elite RB1s entering the year. All right, Wolfpack. Well, that is your ultimate week playoff primer, not just week primer, every week for the next 4 weeks. I hope that was helpful. I hope it was enjoyable. Let me know what you think. I've never really done a show like that. That's my, again, prediction. Bills, Bucks, Bills winning it. It's pretty wild. But if you're going to win some of these bigger tournaments, these, fantasy football guys, $35 buy-in for $100,000 prize, right? You need to have a bold type of prediction. Go in on those Bucks. Go in on those Bills. Don't be the Pat Mahomes team that everybody else will be. Go nuts. And I love it. All right, Wolfpack. Always a pleasure chatting with you guys. Great to see you, Tunes, Mitch, Howland. That makes 4 of us. If we can get 6. Let's see. Where the hell's Sarno? Where the hell's Denny Jennings? Where's our usual Wolfpack? Let's get these guys involved and see if we can string together a league. I'd be down for something like that. If not, we'll play some DFS. We'll have some fun together that way. But I would like to get involved. But let me send off here with a quick little finish. On Tunes, we never got that vacation venison on it. gotta get that going sometime. But guys, thank you so much, Wolfpack. You can find all this content over at rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed fantasy wolves. And again, Wolfpack, those of you, I know the loyal ones out there, you want to do us a solid. Check out Prediction Strike because we're trying to see, test our waters. Do they want to partner with us? Do we want to partner with them? I love what they're doing. I love their app. I love what they're building. We want to show them that we have a little bit of pull. So guys, check it out. Sign up with code RSJ, all caps, to show that the Wolf sent you. It would mean a lot to us. Those of you that, I'll help you invest in the money the right way. Make it, throw $20 in, invest it by the end of the playoffs. We can turn that into 50. And you showed up for the Wolf, which would be nice. So check that out, predictionstrike.com, promo code RSJ, all caps, would be awesome. Best of luck in your fantasy playoff leagues, Wolfpack. You guys are the best. Cheers.